All right, hey guys, OFD checking in here, and today I wanted to show a couple of these watches side by side here. I can't believe I haven't actually done this yet. So this is the Seiko SBDC109, one of the newest rendition of the Seiko Willard out there. This is just the standard black model. This is the one I picked out just because I like the original 6105, and I think this really mimics it very well. Now this watch, or I shouldn't say mimics, this is actually what I'd consider a reissue. This is considered a homage watch. So this actually would be an homage watch to this, or I guess you'd consider it an homage to the original 6105s from Seiko back in the day. But both really nice looking watches. Now, the reason I really want to show these two watches together is because this watch is basically like 15% or less of the price of this watch. This watch is well over $1,000, where this watch you can find these for generally under $200, and that would include a stainless steel bracelet and a rubber strap. Now, both of these watches I have on aftermarket rubber straps. This is actually Uncle Seiko here. This is the strap off my Phoibos Eagle Ray GMT, Quartz GMT. It fits on this watch really, really well. As I'm talking a little bit more about this watch, it is limited as far as the straps and whatnot go for a certain reason. But I wanted to show these two watches side by side because so many people consider this a great watch. And it is. It's a great watch, but I've heard people say it's better than this watch and this and that. And I really want to compare the two watches side by side and kind of talk about them. One of the first things that I want to show you guys with the watches side by side is the actual case shape itself. Now, the SBDC 109 for me has more of that classic 6105 look to it. It's more of a squared off cushion case, whereas the steel dive, this reminds me a lot more of the modern turtle watches out there. Now, some may say this is more reminiscent of the original 6105, but for me, the way this case is actually designed, the hard edges and whatnot on it, it reminds me a little bit more of the 6105. Also, one thing, while I got them side by side here, and this is a big stickler for some people, is the crown positions on them. Now, the original 6105, the crown position was at the 4 o'clock position, pretty much straight up. Now, on the newest 109 here, you guys can see it's advanced. It's more at the 19-minute mark instead of the 20-minute mark, which is kind of interesting. But I will note to you guys that even though it's very close here, it's a little bit lower than the actual 20-minute mark, or actually at least on the dial on this watch. So coming a lot closer to the original with the 4 o'clock position on the crown. But other than that, I think both watches work as far as this one being a reissue, I would call it, and this one being an homage watch. So one of the other differences is the date window. This one has a larger date window, and it does have the chrome surround, which is reminiscent of the original watch. On the SBDC 109, you will see that it does not have the surround. But I'm going to go ahead and set the steel dive down here a little bit closer. We'll bring this one up, take a closer look at the dial on the watch, and talk a little bit more about that. Now, both of these have applied indices on the watches. Now, forgive me, this is a sapphire crystal on this watch, and I don't believe there's any AR coating on it. But as you guys can see, you have the brushed rehaut there on the inside. The indices are applied, polished surrounds on them. One of the things I really want to note to you guys is the hands. Now, the handset is not flat. It does have an apex up the center here, which gives really, really good dimension to the hands themselves. Very good legibility in bright light. The stoplight second hand is really, really cool. Now on this one, I will note, you can see the little tip that they have reaching all the way out here to the second track. Little bit different than the original. The longer hand or the long sweep hand on the original didn't have that little tip on it. And we'll look at the steel dive because it might be a little more reminiscent of that. The bezel on this watch is 120 click bezel, and it really does feel like your standard, Seiko bezel. Really, the way it locks in, the way it turns, the spring action on it's really nice. Aluminum bezel insert, which I think is really the way to go on these. I love the ceramic bezel inserts people are doing nowadays, but I think the patina that you get on a aluminum bezel insert just really makes the watch work. Like I said, this watch did come on a stainless steel bracelet, but I have it on this Uncle Seiko dive strap. But dimensionally, this watch comes in at about just under 43 millimeters here on this watch. It's 42.7, something like that. You got just slightly over 46 here, lug tip to lug tip. Slightly over 13 is the case thickness on the watch, and you have a 20 millimeter lug opening. Now I'm going to bring up the steel dive here and show you guys. And now remember what I said about the price. This one is about 15% or less of the price, depending on where you find it. I actually found this one on sale for $126, shipped to me with a rubber strap and a stainless steel bracelet. But bringing the dial up closer here so you guys can see it. Again, very reminiscent of the Seiko. Now, instead of having that polished rehaut, you do have this bright blue, and it has a real neat iridescent feel to it. The indices on this watch, again, are applied all the way around. Nice, nice sunburst dial on the watch. And you can see here at the 3 o'clock position, the date surround, or the date does have that surround on it. The handset is not like the Seiko. It does not have an apex in the center. These are just flat hands full of loom. There's tons and tons of loom, of course, on both of these watches. And this one for me is a little more reminiscent of the older Seiko, that you don't have that extended tip reaching out there, but you do have the nice long hand reaching all the way out there to the seconds mark, the hash marks on the dial. Again, 120 click bezel, not as stiff on the bezel action as the Seiko on this watch, a little bit looser. This is a ceramic bezel insert on this watch, so basically you're not going to get any patina on this watch whatsoever. Polishing on the watch case here, I'll show you this one really quick, and then we'll bring it up and show you the polishing on the Seiko. Again, on top of the case, of course, is all brushed as it should be, with the turtle, or the 6105 Willard series here. You guys can see the reflections of my LA Dodgers sweatshirt there in the background. 20mm lug openings on this watch. This watch runs at about a millimeter bigger in the side to side, coming in just under 44 millimeters, actually 43.7 is what I measured. 46.5 lug tip to lug tip. Again, like the other watch, you have about 13 millimeters of thickness, and you have a 20mm lug opening also on the watch. So good looking watches. Now let's talk movements in the watches. Now this one is running, from what I can tell, this is running a Chinese licensed NH35 movement, which doesn't mean it's not a Seiko. It's just licensed and it's a Chinese built one. That's what I've heard from a number of people, and it's a good running watch. It runs great. This is actually running the newest 6R35 movement from Seiko. So what's the difference? Well, they're both, I do believe this is a 23 or 24 joule. I think they're 24. Again, 24 joule on this one also, but it's the power reserve. This is going to come in around 38 to 40 hours. These new 6R35s, you're getting 70 hours of power reserve out of them. So the watch is going to run for quite a bit longer on a full charge on the watch. Both watches do have date functionality over at the 3 o'clock position, which is great. So very similar in that respect. Both, great movements. This is a newer movement from Seiko, so we haven't really seen the tenure of the 6R35, but the NH35 here from Seiko that they're running this steel dive, even the Chinese license version, is a really, really nicely made movement. Get it done movement, and can get the job done. Now, is it worth paying the price difference for the watch? Now, I'm a Seiko aficionado, so it's a no-brainer for me when this watch came out. And I knew that it was basically a modern reissue of the original 6105, that I could have a 6105 watch that was basically brand new, warranted, tough. It's going to last me forever. It's going to be one of those watches I can keep in the collection forever. Yes, it was worth buying it. You guys here convinced me to check this one out, and for $126, I couldn't really go wrong picking it up. And it's a great watch. You really can't go wrong. Is it a forever watch? I don't know. The NH35 movement in there, you're going to have to get it serviced one day, and really, they're about a $25 movement, so you're not going to really probably do any service work to this one, but you can, and it is easy to service the watch. This movement, I think, is going to be more robust. You are going to want to take this and get it serviced at your Seiko service center or your Seiko dealer to keep it running for years and years to come, and I think it will really get the job done. I didn't mention it, but both watches are running sapphire crystals. You have a flat sapphire on the steel dive. You have a domed sapphire crystal on the Seiko with a heavy chamfer to it, but both really nice looking. Let's go ahead and pause it, get both these watches on my 7-inch wrist, and then let's go with the Loom shot. All right, so here's the steel dive, and next to that blue Dodger sweatshirt, it looks really, really good. Now, I've got it on, like I said, this Phoibos Tropic strap. This is off my Phoibos Eagle Ray GMT, but it looks really nice. The size of the watch being a cushion case, it really fits nicely on the center of the wrist. The side-to-side and lug tip to lug tip being nearly identical makes the watch, makes the watch wear almost perfectly. So let's check out the SBDC109 on the wrist. All right, so this is a favorite in the collection. The SBDC109 is a classic. I think it's a reissue from Seiko that is going to stand the test of time. I absolutely love the watch. And I'm going to pull it off the wrist here really quickly to show you. I said I was going to do it before, but we didn't look at the case polishing on this. Now, this is a Zaratsu style finishing, I would consider, from Seiko. I mean, it's really, really well done. You can see those edges just amazingly, amazingly well done. You do have a pierced lugs on this watch, which you don't have on the steel dive. The brushing on top, again, is really, really nice. You can kind of compare the brushing on the two watches here. Let's see this side by side. Look at the brushing on the Seiko. You can actually see these brush marks come around, whereas on the Seiko, it's done so nice you can barely even see the brush marks in it at all. And inside the lugs, it's just done better. The Seiko is just polished up nicely. You can see some kind of, it's just not really polished that well inside of there. So the Seiko overall finish, of course, for the pricing, you're getting a much nicer finished watch, but you know, not a bad watch here from Steel Dive. So let's dim the lights and check out the Loom on these two. Well, I've still got a little bit of light coming in through my window out back there. Now, I did mention to you, I think I did, that the bezel on the Steel Dive is ceramic and it's all loomed up. So quite a bit of loom going on in both the watches. And of course, your proprietary Loom Bright from Seiko here on the right-hand side. Both watches look good. You get the BGW9 in the bezel here with the Super Luminova also on the, so you get that dual colorway there. So no problem on either watch in the Loom department. This watch I just wore to bed yesterday and it's amazing. At 3 in the morning, I checked the time and it was like, boom, it was just like glowing like crazy. And I hadn't lit it up or anything, but both cool watches, guys. You can't really go wrong with either of them. If you're a true Seiko collector aficionado, you're probably going to want to go with the SBDC109. If you're just going to try it out or you don't know if the watch will work for you, might be good to check out the Steel Dive or one of the other versions out there before you actually take the plunge on the Seiko. That could be a good way to go. But both different watches, you guys can see to me, the cases do definitely look different, a little bit different watches altogether. But cool stuff. Guys, if you like the video, give me a thumbs up down there at the bottom. And if you've not subscribed to the OFD channel yet, please do. Please do. Thanks, guys.